Barbie woke the next morning with the soft warmth of yesterday's memories shimmering inside her like sunlight resting gently on still water. And as the quiet glow of dawn filtered through her dreamhouse windows, she felt an unusual peacefulness settling in her chest, a soft awareness she had never quite felt before, something delicate and warm that reminded her of Ken's gentle smile from the day before, the warmth of his hands, the sincerity in his voice when he spoke to her as if the whole world narrowed down to just her presence. And as she placed her hand over her heart, she realized she was carrying the echo of those moments with her into this new day, a day she somehow sensed would deepen everything she had begun to feel, a day she hoped would allow her to stay in the gentle space between them a little longer. She sat up slowly, brushing her long golden hair away from her face, the soft silk of her morning robe sliding over her skin like a whisper, and walked out onto her balcony where the rising sun painted the sky with pink and gold, casting a warm glow across the dreamhouse garden. She closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling the scent of blooming roses drifting in the air, and she smiled, thinking of the quiet softness of Ken's voice when he had told her, "You make everything feel peaceful." Those words still melted into her like warm honey, and as she leaned against the railing, she felt the anticipation of the day ahead, wondering if he was awake, if he had slept peacefully, if he was thinking of her the same way she was thinking of him. Down the street, in his own small but warm and comforting home, Ken lay awake on his bed, staring up at the ceiling, the single rose Barbie had given him resting gently on the nightstand, preserved with care as if it were the most precious gift he had ever received. His thoughts drifted back to the lake, to her soft smile, to the way her voice trembled just slightly when she shared her dreams with him, and the way she looked at him as if she saw something beautiful in him he didn't always see in himself. He couldn't shake the peace he felt in her presence, nor the fluttering warmth in his chest whenever he remembered holding her hand, the delicate softness of her touch, the unspoken but undeniable connection that had grown between them like a gentle spark waiting patiently to bloom into something brighter. He sat up and ran a hand through his hair, letting out a breath that felt like both excitement and nervousness, and he whispered to himself, "I hope I get to see her today." And somewhere across town, Barbie whispered the same thought into the morning breeze, not knowing that their hearts were echoing each other in perfect harmony. As the sun drifted higher in the sky, Barbie prepared for the day, choosing a soft pink dress with delicate lace near the shoulders, something simple yet beautiful, something that made her feel light and warm, something she hoped would make Ken smile when he saw her. She brushed her hair with care, letting it fall in cascading waves down her back, then added a touch of soft rose lip color, feeling the flutter of nervous excitement in her stomach, excitement that came not from obligation, not from plans, but from the hope of simply being near him again. At the same time, Ken stood in front of his mirror wearing a simple blue button-down shirt, adjusting it before quickly messing up his hair again because he didn't want to look too formal or too planned. He wanted to look like himself, genuine, warm, comfortable, the version of him that Barbie seemed to appreciate most. And as fate often does when two hearts are quietly searching for one another, they both stepped out into the world at almost the same moment. Barbie walking down the garden path of her dream house, Ken walking his bike along the quiet street, both thinking about nothing but the hope of crossing paths again. When they finally saw each other, time seemed to slow in that magical way it often does when two hearts feel something tender between them. Barbie paused mid-step, her hair glowing like spun gold in the sunlight, and Ken froze for just a moment, his breath catching softly as he took in the gentle beauty of the moment. Barbie smiled first, her cheeks warming with that now familiar fluttering she only felt around him, and she lifted her hand in a small wave, saying softly, "Good morning, Ken." Ken felt warmth bloom inside him at the sweetness of her voice, and he stepped closer, replying with a smile that reached his eyes, "Good morning, Barbie. I was hoping I'd see you today." His honesty made her heart skip, a soft spark rushing through her chest, and she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the shy gesture only making him smile more as they stood bathed in the calm of morning light. They decided to walk together, their conversation drifting into gentle, warm topics, what they dreamed about last night, what they hoped the day would bring, the quiet thoughts they didn't always share with others. And as they walked through the garden, the flowers seemed to bend slightly in the breeze, as if acknowledging the softness between them. Barbie led him toward one of her favorite places, the Dreamhouse's secluded butterfly garden, a hidden corner where colorful butterflies fluttered freely among soft green leaves and blooming flowers. The moment they stepped inside, Ken felt the world around him quiet, as if the space had been created just for them, a peaceful sanctuary that matched the delicate bond forming between their hearts. Barbie watched a pale blue butterfly land on a nearby rose and smiled, her eyes sparkling with childlike wonder. Ken watched her instead, unable to look away from the gentle beauty in her expression, the way her face brightened with simple joys. When she noticed him watching, her breath hitched softly, and their eyes met in a moment so quiet and fragile that neither of them wanted to breathe too loudly. "This place is beautiful," he whispered softly. Though he wasn't looking at the flowers anymore, he was looking at her. Barbie felt her heart melt under the tenderness of his gaze, and she stepped closer, saying quietly, "I'm glad you're here to see it." The gentle emotional closeness wrapped around them like warm sunlight, and as they walked deeper into the garden, the conversation turned tender, Ken talking about how peaceful he felt around her, Barbie admitting how safe his presence made her feel, Ken sharing how her smile had stayed with him all night, Barbie telling him how his kindness had touched her more than he realized. At one point Barbie stopped near a small stone bench surrounded by flowers and sat down, gently patting the spot beside her. Ken hesitated for a moment, feeling the butterflies in his stomach, but then he joined her, their shoulders brushing ever so slightly. The contact was soft, barely there, but it sent a warm ripple through both of them, a silent acknowledgement of the feelings they had been too shy to express out loud. A gentle breeze moved through the garden, lifting Barbie's hair and carrying the soft scent of roses. And Ken found himself reaching out without thinking, his fingers brushing a loose strand of her hair back behind her ear. The moment hung in the air, soft and glowing, their breaths mingling as the space between them grew warm and fragile. Barbie looked down shyly for a moment, her heart fluttering like the butterflies around them, then looked up at him with a soft, tender expression that made Ken's breath catch. "Ken," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion she wasn't sure how to express. He leaned in slightly, not enough to overwhelm, but enough to show he was listening, that he cared deeply, his voice gentle and warm. "Yeah," she hesitated, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her dress, then whispered, Yesterday made me really happy." Ken's chest tightened with emotion, and he nodded softly. "Me too, more than you know." The honesty between them, soft and unforced, flowed like warm light, creating a delicate closeness that made Barbie shift slightly, turning her hand so it rested near his on the bench. Her fingers brushed his gently, a subtle invitation, and Ken slowly, carefully curled his fingers around hers. Their hands fit together in a way that felt both new and familiar, like something that had been waiting quietly to happen. Neither of them spoke for a long moment, they simply sat in the warm morning air, holding hands, breathing softly, feeling the quiet overflowing emotions that words couldn't capture. Eventually Barbie leaned her head gently on Ken's shoulder, her heart beating softly against his arm. And Ken felt a profound warmth rush through him, his eyes closing as he rested his cheek gently against her hair. They stayed like that for a while, the butterflies dancing around them as if celebrating the soft, growing connection between their hearts. When they finally stood up, still holding hands, Barbie led Ken to another hidden corner of the garden, a quiet clearing with a small wooden swing hanging from a tree, surrounded by soft pink blossoms. She sat on the swing first, her dress flowing around her like soft petals, and Ken gently pushed her, laughing softly when she giggled at the gentle motion. The scene felt light, warm, perfect, two souls discovering the joy of simply being together. As the sun climbed higher, they walked to the lake again, the same lake that had held their soft emotional moment the day before. This time they sat closer, their shoulders touching naturally, comfortably, as if the closeness was no longer something to be shy about. Barbie opened up about her fears, her fear of being misunderstood, of people thinking she had to be perfect all the time, of feeling lonely even in a world full of sparkles and beauty. Ken listened with full attention, his heart aching with the desire to support her, comfort her, hold her close. He told her she didn't need to be perfect, that he admired her not for her beauty or her accomplishments, but for her kindness, her warmth, the way she cared so deeply about the people around her. His words made Barbie's eyes glisten softly, and she whispered, "You really see me, don't you?" Ken turned toward her, lifting her chin gently so she would meet his eyes, and said softly, "Yeah, I do." The moment shimmered between them, quiet, tender, intimate, and Barbie felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming warmth of being understood, truly understood. Ken brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb, the gesture slow and gentle, and she closed her eyes under his touch, feeling her heart bloom with feelings she had never truly allowed herself to explore. When she opened her eyes again, Ken was still looking at her with that same soft tenderness, and she leaned into his hand, her voice barely above a whisper as she said, "Thank you." They spent the afternoon talking, laughing, sharing small secrets, and allowing their hearts to open naturally, without pressure, without fear. Every moment felt like a gentle step towards something beautiful, something real. As sunset approached, Ken walked Barbie home, their fingers intertwined, their steps slow because neither wanted the day to end. When they reached her doorstep, Barbie turned to him with a soft smile and said, Today felt like a dream." Ken stepped closer, his voice warm and low. "Then I hope tomorrow feels the same." Barbie's heart fluttered with a soft, glowing happiness, and she leaned forward, gently resting her forehead against his for a brief, tender moment. Their breaths mingled, their hearts beating in quiet harmony, and though neither of them kissed, the closeness of that moment felt even deeper, soft, emotional, perfect. When they pulled away, Barbie whispered, "Good night, Ken," and Ken replied softly, "Good night, Barbie." As she watched him walk away, her heart felt full, overflowing with warmth, and she knew, without doubt, that something beautiful was growing between them. And as Ken walked down the street, the memory of her touch warming his hand, he whispered to himself, "I'm falling for her." And somewhere behind her balcony railings, Barbie whispered the same, her voice soft as moonlight, "I think I'm falling for him too."